Good afternoon. So we're looking at the topic of fraction. Now, when it comes to fractions questions, we must know how to add them, subtract them, multiply, and divide your fractions. So what I'll do is I'll do a quick recap of each of the four operations. Now, for addition, let's say they gave you 1/5 plus 2/5. Now, in adding fractions or subtracting fractions, if your denominators are the same, all we do is we just add the numerators. So once your denominators are the same when adding and subtracting, your denominator remains the same, and then we just add the numerators. So that will be 2 plus 1, which is 3. Now, let's say they gave us 1/5 plus 3 2/3. Now, in mathematics, there's a rule. You can only add or subtract fractions if the denominators are the same. Now, in this case, the denominators are not the same. So we have to find the LCM. Now, LCM means the lowest common multiple. Now, when you hear multiple, you think of multiplying. And with multiplying, you think of your times table. So to find the LCM of numbers, you want to look at the times table of each of the numbers. So in this case, it's 5 and 3. So my times table will be 5. 5 times table, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. My 3 times table will be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. Now, what you want to do is you want to look at the times table and you want to identify the lowest in common. Now, so far, I saw 15 in common, and it's the lowest one in common. So that is my LCM. My LCM of 5 and 3 will be 15. So my LCM is 15. So your goal is that you want to make each of these two numbers 15, right? Because you want to make them the same. So I ask myself, what do I do to 5 to make it 15? I could multiply 5 times 3. Whatever I do to the bottom, I must do it to the top. Then I ask myself, what do I do to the 3 to make it 15? 3 times 5 will give me 15. Whatever you do to the top, the bottom, I must do it to the top in order to form equivalent fractions. So whatever I did to this one to make it 15, I did it to the top. Whatever I did to this one to make it 15, I did it to the top. And then I multiply. 3 ones are 3 over 5 threes are 15 plus 5 twos are 10 over 5 threes are 15. Once my denominators are the same, my denominator stays the same, and then we add the numerators. 10 plus 3, that's 13. So it will be 13 over 15. The same rule applies for subtraction. You cannot add nor subtract fractions if the denominators are not the same. My denominators in this case, they're not the same, so I have to make them the same by finding the LCM. So I'm going to find the LCM of 2 and 4. 2, 4, 6, 8, 4 times table, 4, 8. Now, I can see so far that 4 is in common and 8 is in common, but I want to pick the lowest in common. So my LCM of 4 and 2 is 4. So my LCM is 4. So what do I do to the bottom to make this 4? This is already 4. So I could just multiply it by 1. Whatever I do to the bottom, I must also do it to the top. In order to make 2, 4, I will multiply by 2. But whatever I do to the bottom, I must do it to the top. So let's multiply it and see. 3 ones are 3 over 4 minus 2 ones are 2 over 4. Now that my denominators are the same, my denominator stays the same, and then I could just subtract my numerator. So 3 take away 2, that's 1. So it's going to be a quarter. Now, for multiplying, when we multiply, it's different to the addition and subtraction. So let's say they gave you 2 over 8 times 3 over 7. For multiplying, what I like to do is I like to encircle my numerators. It kind of forms a boundary in my mind. So I know that I am going to use my numerators and check in my denominators to see if any of these numbers share a common timetable with them. Now, 2 and 8 can be found in the same times table. I can find them both in my 2 times table. Both of these belong to the 2 times table. So I can use my 2 times table, my 2, I could use the number 2 to break down these 2 numbers. So 2 could go into each of these. 2 could go into 2 once, and 2 could go into 8 4 times. So I have 1 and 3 left now to see if any of them can be broken down or can be used to break down with respect to 4 and 7. Now, nothing else can be broken down. So once there's nothing more to break down, I multiply numerator by numerator and denominator by denominator. So 1 3 is 3 over 7 4s. 7 4s are 28. And lastly, divide. When I divide fractions, I like to think about going by KCF. You guys might be thinking, let's get it wrong. It's supposed to be KFC. But I go in KCF. I put the chicken before the fry. Right? So instead of going KFC, I go KCF. And K in dividing fractions is telling me to keep your first fraction. The C is telling me to change my sign. And F, I'm going to flip the second fraction. So I'm going to keep, change, flip. So let's say they gave us this one. 2/8 divided by 4/8. So we're going to keep the first fraction as is, change my division sign to multiply, and flip the fraction after the division sign. So I'm going to flip the fraction. So it becomes 8/4. And then we go back to the step of multiplying. So I encircle my numerators and I look to see if anything in the denominators can be broken down using the numerators. So I see 2 and 4, they belong to the same times table. So 2 could go into 2 once, 2 could go into 4 2 times. Then 8, I can cancel those.
Minus Bruce.
Right, so we're going to multiply the numerator by numerator. And then the denominator by the denominator. So it becomes 1 1 is 1 over 2 1s are 2. So it becomes 1/2. All right, so we know how to add, subtract, and multiply fraction. Now, something we need to know is that you see this line in fractions, it actually also means to divide, right? So we have to understand that. So anytime I get a fraction like this, I first, well, on my answer paper, I'll write back my question because it kind of like guides me. So when I look away from the paper, I know I have my working. So I like to rewrite my question where it does not have this line. So I replace this line with my division sign. So I'll end up with 3 1/3 minus 2 3/5. Now, what this is telling me is that I want to divide whatever is up here by whatever is down here. And in order to help me do that, I can use brackets, right? Because whatever is this, I want to simplify it and divide it by the simplified answer of what's below here. So I'm going to put this in brackets, divided by whatever is down here. This is a single fraction, mixed fraction, so I don't have to put it in brackets. My next step is I want to get rid of mixed fractions. So I like to get rid of all my mixed fractions one time. So you know, to get rid of a mixed fraction, you multiply the whole number, multiply it by the denominator, and then add the numerator. So to change mixed number To improper fraction, that's where the numerator is bigger than the denominator. Multiply whole number. You don't have to write it unless you forgot it. Multiply the whole number by the denominator. Remember, the denominator is always below. So in a fraction, the number on top, that's your numerator. And the number below is your denominator. So you multiply a whole number by denominator. And then you add numerator to it. Add the numerator to it. You then put this number over the same denominator. So you'll get 3 3s. 3 times 3 is 9, add 1 is 10. I'll put it over the same denominator, which is 3. So I do that throughout. 5 2s are 10. 10 plus 3 is 13 over 5, divided by 5 2s are 10 plus 1 is 11 over 5. So I change all my mixed numbers into, I change all my mixed numbers into improper fractions. Nice. Now, next step, I'm seeing brackets, I'm seeing minus, and I'm seeing division. So my go-to is BODMAS. Now, BODMAS tells me if you have brackets, work whatever is in the brackets first. So I have 10 over 3 minus 13 over 5. My denominators are different. So I have to make them the same by finding the LCM. The LCM of 3 and 5, I showed you how to get it, is 15. So I want to make each of these denominators 15. So in order to make 3 15, I'll multiply by 5. Whatever I do to the bottom, I must do it to the top. Whatever I do to the bottom here to make this 15, which is to multiply by 3, I must also do it to the top. So we'll end up with 10 5s are 50 over 5 3s are 15. 3 times 13, 3 3s are 9, 3 1s are 3 over 5 3s are 15. So I like to bring down everything one time so I don't forget it. So I finish working what's in the brackets here, but I bring down everything else so I don't forget it at the same time. So still working what's in the brackets, I have 50 minus 39. 50 minus 39, I could use my calculator here, and I'll get 11 over 15. I got a single fraction now in the brackets. So I can open the brackets. So I'll end up with 11 over 15 divided by 11 over 5. Whenever I think of fractions, I think of KCF, not KFC, KCF. I'm going to keep my first fraction as is, change my sign from division to multiply, and then flip the fraction after. I like to encircle my numerators, and then I check in my denominators to see if there's anything I could use to break down. I'm seeing that 11 could go into 11 once. 5 could go into 15 3 times. 1 is 1 over 3 ones are 3. So I'll end up with 1/3. And that's my answer. All right, so we're going to try another one. All right, so the best way in order for us to succeed in mathematics, we have 2 P's, practice and patience, right? You have to have patience with yourself and you have to practice, right? Now, you guys can go to your past papers. And from your past papers, if you're looking for these fractions questions, they are usually in the first part of section 1. Right? So they're very, very easy to find. They're usually in the first part. So what we can do is we can go through the past papers and we can find them. So let's look at this. So on my answer sheet, I write my question. Right? Make sure that it's all of your numbers are correct. Next, I change all of my mixed numbers to improper fraction. So I have this one here, 4 times 5. 4 5s are 20, plus 1 is 21 over 5. The denominator remains the same. So I change all of them one time. 1 9 is 9, plus 1 is 10 over 9. Now this is a whole number, 3. So I make it into a fraction by putting it over 1. Next up, I'm seeing here that I have brackets, multiplying, and subtraction. So I know I have to apply my rule of BODMAS. BODMAS is giving me the order of my operations. So the B is telling me brackets first. So I have to work what's in my brackets. So I like to bring down everything. If I'm not using it as yet, I just bring it down and I leave it. And then I focus on what's in the brackets. So in focusing on what's in my brackets, I have multiplication of my fraction. Sorry. So I encircle my numerators. I look to see in my denominators if there's anything I could use to break down. A good check is to check to see if any numbers share a common times table. So like 3 and 9, they are both in a 3 times table. So I can use 3 to break down these two numbers. So 3 could go into 3 once, 3 could go into 9 3 times. Now there's nothing more I could break down, so I simply multiply numerator by numerator. 10 times 1 is 10, divided by denominator by denominator. 3 times 1 is 3. Now that my fractions in my brackets was reduced to a single fraction, I can release the brackets. So I end up with 21 over 5 minus 10 over 3. Once we're subtracting, Your denominators must be the same. So I showed you how to find your LCM. In this case, it's 15. Whatever I do to the bottom of this number to make it 15, 5 threes are 15, I must do it to the top. Whatever I do to this number to make it 15 times 5, I must do it to the top. So 21 times 3, 3 ones are 3, 3 twos are 6, over 15, minus 5 times 10, that's 50, over 3 fives are 15. Now that my denominators are the same, I can just subtract my numerators. My denominator stays the same. So I could use my calculator, 63 minus 50. I got 13 over 15. So that's my answer. Now these questions can come in multiple ways, but it's the same thing. Once you can add, subtract, divide, and multiply your fractions, all you do is you simply change your mixed fractions into improper fractions, and then you take your time and you apply your rules of BODMAS. All right, so tell me how it goes, and you can always practice and send them to me.